What's up, everybody? How we doing today? Welcome to today's edition of The Gripe Session. I am your host. My name is George S. Wonica. If you haven't listened before, I am a real estate broker. I am an appraiser. I am a mortgage broker out here in Staten Island, New York. And I do a lot of other things within my community. I'm a coach for basketball and baseball, and I do a lot of volunteer work with Kiwanis and things of that nature. But that's really not why you tuned in today. So we're going to look to get right into it. Why am I tuning in today? Well, one of the things that I've been doing a lot of recently was one of the things I learned how to do when I attended a summit in Park City, Utah, was Facebook ads. And one of the things that I've been noticing is some of the clients are not what you would think. What's up with that?
It's Gripe Session time with your host, George Wonica.
It's about nothing.
Discussing everything from real estate, current events, a little bit of everything, and the annoying little things that just tick you off.
You can't handle the truth.
What? You didn't know?
Here's your host, George Wonica.
Your ass better call somebody.
What's up, everybody? How we doing today? After that intro, you know I have to get right into it because everybody's like, what do you mean, George? What exactly are you talking about? Well, let's go right into it. When I went out a couple of years ago and I met with some people out in Park City, Utah that I had never met in real life, I only met them through the internet. Now imagine doing that nowadays. Back in the day when I was growing up, you'd be like, you're going to meet 15 strangers in Utah of all places? Yep. And it would be perfectly fine. It just tells you and shows you where our world has come thanks to the wonderful world of the internet. But anyway, moving right along. So we all decided to get together and start talking about marketing strategies and how we could market and help our clients better. And it wasn't just real estate people. There were some mortgage people there, some title people that were there. There were some property managers there as well. And one of the things that I like to break some of my friends' chops a little bit is, when are we having a reunion? So I'm putting it out there on the Gripe Session podcast. My local gripe nowadays is, when's the REMM reunion happening? Just got to say it. But anyway, going back to what I was talking about. So one of the things that we learned how to do, and one of the things that they wanted to teach us how to do, was how to market in today's world. And while you're marketing in today's world, guess what? It's not like when I started in this business 27 years ago. This business has completely and utterly changed. Some say for the good, some say for the bad. But it's changed regardless. And you have to be able to deal with change. So one of the things they taught us how to do was how to run targeted Facebook ads. Now, before everybody says, well, that's the thing that Facebook outlawed and said that people were using it in a bad way. That is also correct. That's correct in some cases. But it only was the people were doing it, not just necessarily in real estate, but they were doing it in other ways. But you can still run these Facebook ads. Now, there is a difference for those people listening between a Facebook ad and a boosted post. They are two completely separate and different things. So make sure you understand the difference between a boosted ad and a Facebook ad. Now, a Facebook ad, the best part about these things is that you can target your audience. And while you're targeting your audience, one of the things by targeting them is you could see the people that you want to see your ad. Now, whether you're promoting a house, whether you're promoting your website. So once you decide that you're going to go and do an ad, whether it's on a house or whether it's promoting your website, you have to know who you want to target this to. Now, one of the things, how, depending on what kind of ad you want to run, is you set your audience on Facebook, right? And you can go on Google and you can look up how do I run a Facebook ad and how do I target my audience. And that's the wonderful thing about the internet nowadays is you can Google anything. And why I tell people all the time, my favorite 3 letters are GTS, which stands for Google that shit, if you don't know. So back to what we were talking about. So my gripe today has to do with the Facebook ads. And like, well, George, it sounds like it's a great thing. No, it is a great thing. But here's the problem, okay? The problem is some of my colleagues are on these social media platforms as well. Now, they're what I call masquerading as agents. Now, why do I say they're masquerading as agents? They put nothing in their profile that they're an agent. They do not have anything of distinguishing features in their profiles as agents. Now, how would you say, George, how do you know this? Well, I can tell you that one of the things that I try not to do in my targeting is actually keep it away from agents, right? Now, granted, I get it. You're not going to be able to get everybody, right? Because some people don't want them to know that they're agents or they have another job or they do any of the things that they do. And I get that. Completely understand it. However, I have recently come across anywhere with a specific ad that I've been running, 10 to 15 agents that have been coming up as a lead from my link, which translates to is they clicked on the link, they put their information in, and then they got the information that came out of the ad. Because the ad says if you give the information, you can then go to this spot. Now, I have no problems with people doing what. Now, many people think that, oh my God, George, you just don't want agents to see what you're doing. No, that's not the case. Because a couple of these agents, and you know who you are, if you listen to this podcast, you know exactly who I've called. So you know I'm talking to you right now. And I actually told you this. I have no problem with agents calling me and saying, hey, George, how did you do this? How did you run this ad? How do you get the qualifications? How do you get the instant information from the people, right? You can't be doing it all yourself. And that's 1,000% correct. I'm not. I'm using a bunch of different services. One service I'm using in particular is a service called Agentology, which, well, used to be referred to as Agentology. Now they're known as Verse.io. They changed their name. And what Verse does is they qualify your potential lead. So why do I do that? And you have to, it's like anything else, you get what you pay for, right? They send you an email, they let you know, we've unqualified the lead, this one was only informational, this was that. And people say, what do you do that for? Well, one thing I do it for is I'm a busy guy, not trying to pat my back or do any of that kind of stuff. I'm a family man. I've got 3 kids. I'm a coach. I'm doing a lot of different things. I'm getting ready to run for public office. And I got a lot of things on my plate. I don't have time to get into conversations or extended conversations with people if they're not a serious buyer, if they're just looking, if they're just doing this. It's waste of time that I don't have, right? And what is our technologies nowadays all about? It's all about ease of use. It's all about the facts that we can now save time when we have things automated. So I go back to my initial conversation. I'm using Agentology to help qualify those leads. And then I will get on the phone with those individuals once I know they are a serious type of a buyer or seller. Now, while I'm having these conversations with agents, and you say, George, why would you do that? And by the way, it's not just an agentology thing. It's setting up a Facebook ad account. It's making sure you have something on your website that you can point them to where you want to point them to. It's a whole process, which we'll get to in another podcast. Okay. Or I can also direct you to a friend of mine's YouTube account, which we'll go into it, but we'll figure out how we want to do that. But let me explain to you, or the people that listen to this podcast, most people would say, George, why would you want to tell your competition your secret? Why would you tell them what you're doing? And it really boils down to just brutal honesty. Because most of the people that I will tell this to are too lazy to do it. I'll say it again. Most people are too lazy to do it. They don't want to put the work in. They don't want to actually have an accountability to do something. And if they don't make a sale right away, you know what? This didn't work. This is garbage. Let me get rid of it. I have generated an enormous amount of leads for myself to either work myself or hand out to people in my office just by doing these leads. Okay? And I'm not going to blow smoke, guys and ladies and gentlemen. I'm not here to blow smoke. Okay? It's happened. Quite frankly, one of the people that I attended REMM, the Real Estate Marketing Mastermind, I stole it. I stole his ad that he used that wasn't working for him and got it to work for me. True story. He has his own podcast, Modern Agent Podcast. Him and I are going to actually look to do another podcast. He's been on here before, my buddy Rick Gonzalez. We're going to get him on here, and we're going to do a little different type of a podcast for you down the road. So stay tuned for that one. But I took his ad and just put my own spiel on it, my own audience on it, and guess what? It worked and it was successful. So it can be done, but you have to put the work in. I'll give you a better example of that. Doing a podcast. People all the time ask me, why, George, why do you do podcasts for? And there are a lot of different reasons of why I'm doing my podcast, why I was doing my Facebook Lives. And a lot of them have to do with giving back to my industry, showing people what the real truth is about some of the stuff. But there's another reason why I do some of this stuff. And there's a really big reason that not a lot of people think about. I have, because I've listened to a lot of Gary Vee, who I've now started to look up to and say, you know, he's definitely one of the mentors that I look up to nowadays. We have the technology now that this podcast is going to live on forever. Now, some people might not like that, and I get that too. That's fine, right? But the podcast, the videos I put on YouTube, they will be living on forever. And there's a cool part about that, right? The cool part is that my grandkids, God willing, my future family will be able to see what was Grandpa like every day. How was he? Because, look, we all know life is short, right? We all know that, you know, oh, well, what could you tell me about this one, this relative, that relative? Think about how cool it's going to be for my grandkids, my great-grandkids, or the relatives that I will never, ever get to meet will be able to see, hear their distant relative that they never physically got to meet and know my personality. Like right now, it's just about, you hear stories. You hear stories about your former relatives and what they were like and how were they. And then you got to basically figure out, is the person telling me this, did they not like them? Were they full of it? Were they this, were that? This day and age removes any supposition, any conversation. Now, everybody could say, well, you don't know if they're being real. Listen, it ain't getting much realer than this. So that's the other reason that I do these things. Okay? I know what I want my legacy to be. I want to be able to help people. I know there's a lot of people that are out there, they get the complete wrong idea about me and why I do what I do. Because there's always a reason why. There's always a reason why. There's a method to the madness, as I like to say. Oh, yeah. Little macho man for you on the podcast. So the reason, going way back, because we got way off track there. It's amazing how it's just like the gripe session gets right off the tracks. Got to pull it right back onto the tracks here for a minute. If you're an agent and you have no idea of how to do these things or want to see somebody do them, I implore you, and I'm telling you, you can take this podcast, you can replay it 5 different times, and you could pick up the phone, give me a call, send me an email, hit me up on social media, and say, hey, George, I have a question. How are you doing that? How are you putting these ads out there? What are you doing? How are you doing this with your website? What exactly are you doing? And listen, I'll be happy to tell you about it. Because a lot of people talk the talk, but they sure as hell don't walk the walk. That's just real. So I have no problem helping people and explaining how to do, whether they work for my company, whether they don't work for my company. It doesn't make a difference to me. People say, well, George, that's stupid. Well, guess what? I want to help elevate this profession. The way you help elevate the profession is you help build other people up. That's just me. That's what I'm about. So that's what we got for today. So I appreciate you checking this one out. Please definitely hit me up if you have any questions on Facebook ads. Well, that's all we got for today. Then Facebook ads, man. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, guys and girls, why keep doing that? Ladies and gentlemen, please, 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 if you're an agent, if you're a mortgage professional, and you want to have any idea of exactly what I'm doing, I implore you with any of this stuff, including George, I want to know how you make a podcast. I am here right now. I have no main equipment. I am talking to you in my bedroom with a microphone attached to my phone. That's how easy this is. My whole setup was not more than $75 for the mic, which is a portable mic, which means I can go and interview anybody, anywhere, at any time. So you don't need a lot of money to do some of this stuff. The one thing you need to do is be able to get some topics out there and have fun. That's it. So that being said, I want to thank you for listening to today's edition of the Gripe Session. I hope you were able to learn something today. If you were able to learn something today, I'm asking a favor. I don't do this podcast to make any money because, quite frankly, I don't. We have no sponsors on this podcast whatsoever. We're here for you as the agents, as mortgage professionals, and anything else I can do to help. So I ask just one thing. Do me a favor. Hook a brother up. Hook your buddy up. Give me a rate and review. And if you'd be so kind to subscribe to the Gripe Session, we would definitely appreciate it. And also do me another favor. Do me a solid. Hook me up. Follow me on Instagram at the Gripe Session Podcast. Follow me again or at George S. Wonica, which is my Instagram regular section. My regular account, George S. Wonica on Instagram. But you can also follow me on Facebook at the Gripe Session Podcast on Facebook as well. And I'm also on LinkedIn, but not as the Gripe Session, just as George S. Wonica. So you can find me everywhere. If you can't find me, quite frankly, you're not looking hard enough. That's all I got for you, ladies and gentlemen, today. I want to wish you a wonderful day. Do something nice with somebody you wouldn't normally do, and we'll catch you on the next edition of the Gripe Session. Take it easy.
Thanks for listening to the Gripe Session. Please follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.